Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he climbed out of the mining shaft. The orange sun of Kepler 442b was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. He had been working in the mines for 12 hours straight, but that was normal life on the colony. 3 years ago, when Earth first sent them here, everyone had dreams of striking it rich. Now it was just hard work, day after day. The colony had grown bigger over the years. What started as 50 people living in prefab shelters had become a real town, with over 3,000 residents. They had built proper houses, schools for the kids, and even a small hospital. Dr. Kate Williams ran the medical center and also studied the strange plants and animals they found on this world. She was always excited about some new discovery. Lisa Grant worked in the communication center, keeping contact with Earth and the other human colonies. Every week she sent reports back home and received news from the outside galaxy. The messages took 4 months to reach Earth, so any news they got was already old. But it helped everyone feel less alone in the darkness of space. Ben Clark was the colony administrator. He made sure everything ran smoothly, from food distribution to work schedules. People respected him because he was fair and always listened to their problems. He had been elected by the colonists themselves, and everyone trusted his judgment. Security Chief Rick Torres kept everyone safe. Crime was rare on the colony, but they had to watch out for dangerous wildlife and equipment accidents. Rick had served in Earth's military before coming here, and he trained a small group of volunteers to help with security. They had basic weapons, nothing fancy, just enough to handle local problems. That morning had started like any other. The miners went down into the shafts while the engineers checked the equipment. The communication center buzzed with routine traffic from nearby systems. Children played in the streets while their parents worked. Nobody expected what was about to happen. Lisa was at her post when the first strange signals appeared on her screens. She frowned and adjusted the controls, thinking it might be equipment trouble. But the signals kept getting stronger. They were coming from deep space, from the direction where no human ships should be. "Ben, you need to see this," she called over the intercom. Ben hurried to the communication center, followed by Dr. Williams and Rick Torres. They all stared at the screens showing dozens of large objects approaching their system. The objects moved in a strange pattern, not like human ships at all. "What are they?" Ben asked. "I don't know," Lisa replied. "They're not responding to our signals. And they're huge, much bigger than any ship we've ever built." Jake had just finished his shift when the alarm sounded across the colony. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. At first, they saw nothing unusual. Then someone pointed toward the horizon. Dark shapes were moving across the stars. They looked like enormous insects with curved hulls and strange projections that might have been weapons or sensors. The ships moved in a swarm formation, blocking out more and more of the sky as they approached. "Everyone stay calm," Ben's voice came over the colony's speakers. "Report to your emergency stations. This is not a drill." The colonists had practiced for emergencies, but they had always imagined equipment failures or natural disasters. Nobody had prepared for this. Children cried as their parents grabbed them and ran for the shelters. The emergency sirens wailed across the settlement. Rick gathered his security team at the armory. They had hunting rifles and a few military weapons left over from the colony's early days. Against whatever was coming, it would not be enough, but they would try to protect their people. Dr. Williams watched from the hospital window as the alien ships descended. She had always wondered if they would encounter other intelligent life. Now she wished they never had. These visitors did not look friendly. The first alien ship landed in the colony's central square with a sound like thunder. It was alive somehow, its hull pulsing with organic rhythms. Openings appeared in its sides, and creatures poured out. They looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. Their bodies were covered in hard shells that gleamed in the dim light. They had 4 arms ending in sharp claws, and their heads were dominated by large, multifaceted eyes. They moved with quick, jerky motions that made Jake's skin crawl. The creatures spread out across the colony with military precision. They carried weapons that looked grown rather than built, firing energy beams that could punch through concrete walls. Any colonist who tried to run was quickly surrounded and captured. Lisa managed to get a distress signal ready before the aliens reached the communication center. Her fingers flew over the controls as she programmed the emergency beacon with their location and situation. She hit the transmission button just as the door exploded inward. The creature that entered looked at her with those terrible compound eyes. It made a sound like grinding metal and pointed its weapon at her. Lisa raised her hands and stepped away from the controls. She hoped her message had gotten through. Ben tried to organize a surrender to prevent bloodshed, but the aliens did not seem interested in negotiation. They herded the colonists into groups and forced them toward the landing ships. Anyone who moved too slowly was prodded with electric weapons that sent people sprawling in pain. Jake found himself marched into one of the alien ships with 50 other miners. The interior was like being inside a living creature, with walls that moved slightly and floors that felt warm under their feet. The air smelled of something sharp and chemical that made their eyes water. Rick and his security team tried to fight back from the colony's outer buildings. They managed to shoot down a few of the smaller alien flying creatures, but for every one they killed, 10 more appeared. Finally, Rick ordered his people to retreat to the old mining tunnels in the mountains. Maybe they could hide there and help the colonists later. Dr. Williams was separated from the other prisoners and taken to a different ship. The aliens seemed interested in her medical knowledge. She tried to communicate with them, but they only responded with those grinding metal sounds. She realized with growing horror that these creatures saw humans as nothing more than useful animals. As night fell over the colony, the alien ships had taken control of everything. Most of the colonists were prisoners, and their home was now occupied territory. The orange sun disappeared behind the mountains, leaving them in darkness. Somewhere in the deep tunnels, Rick Torres gathered the few dozen people who had escaped capture. They had some food, water, and weapons, but not much else. Outside, the alien ships patrolled the sky like mechanical vultures. Lisa's distress signal raced through space toward Earth, carrying news of their desperate situation. But Earth was so far away, and space was so vast. Would anyone even receive their cry for help? And if they did, would anyone come to save them? The colonists could only hope that somewhere in the darkness, someone was listening. Admiral Grace Palmer stood in the command center of Luna Station, staring at the holographic display showing the outer colonies. The distress signal from Kepler 442b had arrived 4 hours ago, and she could still hear Lisa Grant's terrified voice in her memory. The transmission had been brief and broken, but the message was clear. The colony was under attack by unknown aliens. "Show me the signal again," she ordered. The communication officer played the recording one more time. Lisa's voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Kepler 442b colony to any Earth forces. We are under attack by hostile aliens. They have superior technology and numbers. We need immediate assistance. Coordinates follow. Please, if anyone receives this, we have 3,000 people here, including 500 children." The transmission ended with the sound of explosions and alien weapons fire. Then nothing but silence from that distant world. Grace had been in the military for 30 years. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and commanded patrol ships along the frontier. But she had never faced anything like this. Humans had been exploring space for decades and had never encountered hostile aliens. Now it seemed their luck had run out. "How long to reach Kepler 442b?" she asked her navigation officer. 2 weeks by hyperspace jump, Admiral. But that's for a single fast ship. A full fleet would take longer to coordinate. Grace nodded. 2 weeks to get there, plus the 4 months the signal had taken to reach Earth. The colonists might already be dead, but she could not take that chance. Humanity had a rule that went back to the earliest days of space exploration. No one gets left behind. Send orders to all fleet commanders. I want every available ship to report to Luna Station within 72 hours. We're mounting a rescue operation. Fleet Commander Tony Blake received the orders at Mars Naval Base and immediately began organizing the largest military response in human history. Ships scattered across dozens of systems started turning toward Earth. Captains pushed their engines to maximum safe speed, racing to join the gathering fleet. Captain Alex Hunter commanded the Dreadnought UES Vengeance, one of Earth's most powerful warships. When the recall order came, he was patrolling the Jupiter system. He ordered his crew to plot a direct course to Luna Station and engaged the ship's hyperdrive. The UES Vengeance was 800 meters long and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. Its hull was armored with the strongest materials human science could create. Plasma cannons and railguns bristled from weapon ports along its sides. In the ship's hangar bays, fighters and bombers waited for battle. Captain Sam Rogers commanded another dreadnought, the UES Liberty. His ship was newer than the Vengeance, but just as deadly. When he received the recall order, he was escorting a convoy of merchant ships near the outer colonies. He transferred the convoy to a patrol cruiser and raced toward Earth at maximum speed. As the ships arrived at Luna Station, the massive space dock became a hive of activity. Supply crews worked around the clock to load ammunition, fuel, and provisions. Medical teams prepared hospital ships for casualties. Marines checked their weapons and armor for the coming battle. Navigation officer Amy Foster worked in the Fleet Planning Center, calculating hyperspace routes to Kepler 442b. The distance was enormous, even by space travel standards. She had to plot a course that would allow over 200 ships to arrive together, without scattering across the system. The key is synchronized jumping, she explained to the assembled captains. We'll make 3 hyperspace jumps with precise timing. Each ship must hit the jump points exactly on schedule, or will arrive at different times. Tactical analyst Joe Murphy studied every piece of information they had about the aliens. The data was limited to Lisa Grant's brief transmission and some blurry sensor readings, but he tried to build a picture of what they were facing. The aliens seemed to favor organic-looking ships, he told the strategy meeting. Their weapons appeared to be energy-based, possibly plasma or particle beams. They moved in swarm formation, suggesting they rely on numbers rather than individual ship strength. Dr. Carl Evans, the fleet's chief medical officer, prepared for the worst. His hospital ships carried enough supplies to treat thousands of casualties. He also studied human biology, trying to predict how colonists might have been affected by alien capture. We have to assume some of our people have been injured or worse, he told his medical teams. Be prepared for anything. We don't know what these aliens are capable of. Marine Colonel Lisa Hayes trained her troops in ship-to-ship combat and planetary assault. Her Marines were the best soldiers humanity had ever produced, equipped with powered armor and advanced weapons. But they had never fought aliens before. Remember, we don't know their weaknesses yet, she told her battalion commanders. Shoot to kill and keep moving. Protect the civilians and complete the mission. As more ships arrived, the fleet grew to impressive size. Dreadnoughts formed the heavy battle line, their massive guns ready to engage alien capital ships. Cruisers and destroyers would provide escort and anti-fighter defense. Fast attack ships would hunt down alien scouts and bombers. Behind the warships came the support vessels. Troop transports carried Marines and their equipment. Supply ships held spare parts and ammunition. Hospital ships prepared to treat wounded colonists and soldiers. Even civilian passenger liners had been converted to help evacuate survivors. Admiral Palmer walked through the Fleet Command Center, watching her officers coordinate the massive operation. Hundreds of ships from across human space were converging on Luna Station. This was the largest military force Earth had ever assembled. Admiral, we have reports from the outer colonies, her intelligence officer announced. 3 other human settlements have gone silent in the past 6 months. No distress signals, just complete communication blackouts. Grace felt a chill run down her spine. This was not a random attack on one colony. The aliens were systematically targeting human settlements. Kepler 442b might be just the beginning of a larger war. How many ships do we have now? She asked Tony Blake. 212 combat vessels plus 60 support ships, he replied. More are still arriving, Grace nodded. It was an impressive force, but she wondered if it would be enough. They were flying into the unknown to face an enemy they knew almost nothing about. The aliens had surprised one human colony. They might have more tricks waiting. Begin final preparations, she ordered. I want all ships ready to depart in 18 hours. We've kept the colonists waiting long enough. In the ship hangars, pilots ran final checks on their fighters. Engineers tested weapon systems and shield generators. Soldiers cleaned their rifles and checked their armor. Everyone knew this mission was different from anything they had done before. The fleet chaplains held services for crews who wanted them. Some people prayed to various gods for protection and victory. Others simply sat quietly, thinking about the colonists they were going to save and the families they were leaving behind. Captain Alex Hunter stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, looking out at the assembled fleet. Ships stretched in all directions, their running lights twinkling like stars. Soon they would jump into hyperspace and begin the journey to Kepler 442b. "Think we'll get there in time?" his executive officer asked. "We have to," Alex replied. "Those people are counting on us, and humanity doesn't abandon its own." The final ships arrived just as the countdown began. Admiral Palmer gave the order from the flagship UES Terra's Wrath, and the massive fleet engaged their hyperdrives simultaneously. Space twisted around them as they disappeared into the strange realm between dimensions. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were racing across the galaxy to face humanity's first alien war. 2 months had passed since the aliens took over Kepler 442b, and life had become a nightmare for the colonists. Jake Morrison woke up each morning in the cramped barracks where the aliens kept their human prisoners. The smell of too many people in too small a space filled his nose, along with the strange chemical odor that came from the alien ships. The creatures had put the colonists to work in the deep mines, forcing them to extract rare minerals from the planet's core. Jake's engineering skills made him valuable to their captors, so they had assigned him to repair and maintain their organic machinery. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever seen, grown rather than built, pulsing with its own life. Every day, Jake was escorted by 2 guards to the alien ship that served as their command center. The creatures communicated with grinding metal sounds and sharp clicks that hurt his ears. They showed him broken equipment and pointed until he figured out how to fix it. If he worked quickly and well, they left him alone. If he was slow, they used electric prods that sent waves of agony through his body. The worst part was not knowing what had happened to his friends. The aliens had separated the colonists by their skills. Engineers and technicians went to one area, doctors and scientists to another, ordinary workers to the mines. Jake had not seen Ben Clark or Dr. Williams since the day of capture. He could only hope they were still alive. Lisa Grant found herself in a different kind of prison. The aliens had discovered her communication skills and forced her to work in their monitoring station. She spent her days listening to radio signals from across the galaxy, translating human communications for her captors. The work made her sick to her stomach, but it also gave her opportunities. The aliens were not as careful as they should have been. They left her alone for hours at a time, trusting that fear would keep her obedient. During those periods, Lisa managed to intercept fragments of military transmissions. Her heart nearly stopped when she recognized Earth Defense Force encryption codes. Someone had received their distress signal. Someone was coming. Lisa carefully memorized every detail she could gather from the intercepted signals. The transmissions were heavily encoded, but she could tell they involved fleet movements and military preparations. She began to hope that Earth had not forgotten about the distant colony. The challenge was getting this information to the other survivors without the aliens noticing. Lisa started leaving small marks on equipment and walls, a simple code that other colonists might recognize. She drew tiny Earth symbols in places where the aliens would not look. Slowly, word began to spread among the prisoners that help might be coming. Rick Torres had managed to keep a small group of colonists hidden in the old mining tunnels deep in the mountains. About 60 people had escaped the initial capture, including some families with children. They lived like cave dwellers, moving carefully at night to gather supplies and information. The tunnels were cold and damp, but they provided protection from the alien patrols. Rick had found an old emergency shelter from the colony's early days, complete with basic supplies and communication equipment. Unfortunately, the aliens had destroyed the main transmission towers, so they could not contact Earth directly. Dr. Kate Williams had not been seen since the day of capture, but Rick hoped she was still alive somewhere in the alien ships. Her knowledge of biology might be keeping her valuable to their captors. Rick organized careful scouting missions to watch the alien activities and look for opportunities to help other prisoners. The hidden colonists learned that the aliens were called Vrikari, a name they heard from intercepted alien communications. The creatures seemed to operate as a hive mind, following orders from larger individuals who never left their ships. They were stripping the planet of its resources with frightening efficiency. Ben Clark found himself in the main detention facility with most of the ordinary colonists. The aliens kept them in large rooms with minimal food and water, using them as general labor for various projects. Ben tried to maintain order among the prisoners and keep their spirits up, but it was getting harder each day. The Vrikari showed no interest in human culture or individual rights. They treated the colonists like useful animals, nothing more. Anyone who got sick or injured was simply left to die. The aliens seemed to have no concept of mercy or compassion. Despite the harsh conditions, Ben managed to establish a hidden communication network among the prisoners. They used hand signals and whispered messages to share information and coordinate small acts of resistance. When guards were not watching, they would slow down their work or damage equipment in subtle ways. Dr. Williams had indeed been kept alive, though she sometimes wished she had not been. The aliens were fascinated by human biology and forced her to explain how human bodies worked. They seemed particularly interested in human reproduction and child development. The questions made her deeply uncomfortable. The lead Vrikari scientist, a creature larger than the others with additional arm modifications, conducted regular experiments on captured colonists. Dr. Williams was forced to assist, using her medical knowledge to keep the test subjects alive longer. She felt like a traitor to her own species, but the alternative was death. Through her work, Dr. Williams learned disturbing facts about the Vrikari. They were not native to this galaxy and had been consuming planets for thousands of years. Their bioships were actually living creatures that they had modified for space travel. The entire species existed as a nomadic swarm, moving from system to system and devouring everything in their path. Most frightening of all, this was just one small part of a much larger Vrikari force. The main swarm contained millions of ships and had already consumed entire civilizations. The force attacking human colonies was merely a scouting group, testing human defenses before the real invasion began. As the weeks passed, conditions in the colony grew worse. The aliens were pushing the mining operations harder, extracting materials around the clock. The colonists were given less food and forced to work longer hours. Many people were getting sick from exhaustion and poor treatment. The Vrikari also began modifying the planet's atmosphere to suit their needs. They released gases that made breathing difficult for humans and started dismantling the colony's life support systems. It became clear that they planned to make the planet uninhabitable for humans once they finished extracting its resources. Lisa noticed increased activity in the alien communication networks. Ships were arriving and leaving the system more frequently, and the encryption on their signals was getting more complex. Something big was happening, but she could not tell what. Rick's scouts reported that the aliens were building new structures around the colony. Large biomechanical installations rose from the ground like twisted trees, connected by organic tubes that pulsed with strange energy. The purpose was unclear, but it looked ominous. In the detention facility, Ben organized a secret meeting of the senior colonists. They agreed that if rescue was coming, they needed to be ready to help. The colonists began stockpiling improvised weapons and planning coordinated actions to disrupt alien operations when the time came. Dr. Williams made a horrifying discovery during one of her forced research sessions. The Vrikari were not just studying human biology for scientific curiosity. They were preparing to modify captured humans into hybrid creatures that could serve as specialized workers. The transformation was irreversible and would destroy everything that made a person human. She realized that time was running out. Whatever was going to happen needed to happen soon, or there would be nothing left to rescue. The Vrikari were not conquerors who could be negotiated with or appeased. They were a plague that consumed everything in their path. Meanwhile, in the cold tunnels, Rick Torres gathered his remaining fighters around a small fire. They had been free for 2 months, but they could not hide forever. Their supplies were running low and winter was coming to this part of the planet. Soon they would have to take action or surrender. "I still think someone's coming to help us," whispered Mary Chen, one of the tunnel survivors. Lisa's signal must have gotten through. Rick nodded, though privately he was starting to doubt. Earth was so far away and space was so vast. Even if help was coming, would it arrive in time? The aliens were getting ready to leave the system, and they would probably kill all the remaining humans before they departed. But humans are stubborn creatures, and hope dies hard. In the tunnels, in the detention centers, and in the alien ships, the colonists continued to believe that someone would come for them. They had to believe it because the alternative was unthinkable. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, that belief was about to be rewarded. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Vrikari's organic sensor networks. Deep space monitoring creatures floating in the void around Kepler 442b detected strange ripples in hyperspace. The alien commanders dismissed the readings as cosmic interference, a common occurrence in this region of the galaxy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lisa Grant was working her usual shift in the alien monitoring station when every screen suddenly lit up with warning signals. The Vakari guards around her began making urgent clicking sounds, their movements becoming more agitated by the second. She pretended to focus on her work while listening carefully to their communications. Something was coming, something big. In the deep mining tunnels, Jake Morrison was repairing another piece of alien biomachinery when the creature supervising him suddenly stopped moving. Its compound eyes went wide and it made a sound like tearing metal. The other aliens in the area responded with similar cries of alarm. Above them, space itself began to tear open. Admiral Grace Palmer stood on the bridge of the UES Terra's Wrath as her massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The sight before her was exactly what she had expected and feared. Dozens of alien bioships surrounded the planet like mechanical vultures, their organic hulls pulsing with unnatural life. "My God," whispered her tactical officer. "Look at the size of those things." The largest alien vessel was over 2 kilometers long, its surface covered in weapon ports and sensor clusters. Smaller ships swarmed around it like insects, their movements quick and predatory. On the planet's surface, the human colony was barely visible beneath alien structures that looked like cancerous growths. "All ships. This is Admiral Palmer," she announced over the fleet communication network. "We have found our people and we are bringing them home. Execute Battle Plan Alpha." Captain Alex Hunter felt his heart pound as the UES Vengeance emerged from hyperspace alongside the rest of the fleet. 237 human warships materialized in the space around Kepler 442b, their hulls gleaming in the orange light of the distant sun. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. "Target the nearest alien ship," he ordered his weapons officer. "Charge all plasma cannons and prepare railgun batteries." Captain Sam Rogers on the UES Liberty was already moving his dreadnought into attack position. The alien ships were scrambling to respond, but they had been caught completely off guard. Their organic technology was advanced, but they had never faced human military engineering. "Attention alien vessels," Admiral Palmer broadcast on all frequencies. "You are holding human citizens against their will. You have exactly 60 seconds to begin releasing them and evacuating this system, or we will consider you hostile and respond accordingly." The response came not in words but in action. The largest alien ship turned its weapon clusters toward the human fleet and opened fire with beams of searing energy. The shots struck the shields of the UES Terra's Wrath, sending ripples of light across the protective barriers. "Hostile intent confirmed," Palmer announced calmly. "All ships weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten human lives." The space battle erupted with devastating fury. Human railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, punching through alien bioship hulls like bullets through paper. Plasma cannons turned alien fighters into brief stars that flared and died in the vacuum. Missile swarms raced between the opposing fleets, seeking targets with electronic determination. On the planet's surface, the hidden colonists in the mining tunnels felt the ground shake as weapons fire lit up the sky above them. Rick Torres led his people to the tunnel entrance and stared up at the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. Human ships filled the darkness, their weapons flashing like lightning. "That's Earth Defense Force ships," he told the others, his voice breaking with emotion. "They came for us." They actually came. In the detention facility, Ben Clark heard the sound of battle and knew immediately what it meant. He had served in the military years ago and recognized the distinctive sound of human railguns. He began moving through the crowded barracks, whispering to the other prisoners. "Get ready," he told them. "Our people are here. When I give the signal, we take this place." The Vakari had expected their swarm tactics to overwhelm any opposition, as they had done with countless other species. But human military doctrine was based on coordinated firepower and tactical discipline. The alien ships found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered by enemies who fought as a unified force. Captain Alex Hunter watched with satisfaction as his ship's main guns tore through an alien cruiser. The creature's bioship writhed in apparent pain before exploding in a burst of organic debris. Around him, the rest of the human fleet was systematically destroying the alien forces. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," his communication officer reported. "It's coming from the colony." Lisa Grant had managed to activate an emergency transmitter hidden in the alien monitoring station. Her voice crackled through the static as she spoke quickly into the microphone. "This is Lisa Grant, Colony Communications Officer. We have approximately 2,500 survivors. Most are being held in the main detention facility near the landing site. Some are hidden in the old mining tunnels. The aliens have been using us as forced labor. Please hurry. They're talking about killing prisoners." Admiral Palmer received the transmission and immediately ordered her marine assault ships to prepare for planetary landing. Colonel Lisa Hayes and her soldiers had been waiting for this moment, their powered armor checked and their weapons loaded. "Remember, the civilians are the priority," she told her battalion commanders. "Get our people out safely, then we can worry about destroying alien installations." The space battle continued to rage above the planet as human dropships raced toward the surface. The Vrikari had launched their own flying creatures to intercept the landing force, but human fighter squadrons cleared the way with precision strikes. Jake Morrison was still in the alien ship when the first human troops burst through the hull breach. He heard the distinctive whine of human plasma rifles and the heavy footsteps of powered armor. The aliens around him scattered in panic as soldiers in Earth Defense Force uniforms secured the area. "Are there any humans in here?" called a voice with a familiar accent. "Here," Jake shouted. "I'm human. There are others in the lower sections." The soldier who found him was a young woman with lieutenant's bars on her armor. She helped him to his feet and checked him for injuries. "You're safe now, sir," she said. "We're getting everyone out." In the main detention facility, Ben Clark heard the sound of human weapons getting closer. The Vrikari guards were becoming more agitated, some of them pointing their energy weapons at the human prisoners. Ben realized they were planning to kill the colonists rather than let them be rescued now. He shouted to the other prisoners. The colonists rushed their guards with improvised weapons and desperate courage. They had nothing to lose and everything to fight for. Some of them fell to alien energy beams, but others managed to overwhelm their captors through sheer numbers. The detention center erupted in chaos as hundreds of prisoners fought for their freedom. Ben Clark found himself wrestling with a Vrikari guard twice his size, using his weight to pin the creature down while other colonists grabbed its weapon. Then the wall exploded inward as human Marines blasted their way into the facility. Soldiers in powered armor stormed through the breach, their weapons cutting down any alien that threatened the prisoners. "Get down, friendlies coming through," shouted the Marine sergeant as his squad secured the area. Dr. Kate Williams was in the alien laboratory ship when human soldiers found her. She was weak from months of captivity and forced cooperation, but she was alive. The Marine who carried her to safety was gentle despite his intimidating armor. "Ma'am, we're taking you home," he said as they reached the evacuation shuttle. In space, the battle was turning decisively in humanity's favor. The Vrikari Queen mothership, the largest of the alien vessels, was trying to retreat toward the edge of the system. But Admiral Palmer had positioned her fastest ships to cut off all escape routes. "Don't let that thing get away," she ordered. "Whatever's commanding this swarm, I want it dead." Captain Sam Rogers maneuvered the UES Liberty to intercept the fleeing Queen ship. His Dreadnoughts' quantum torpedoes locked onto the alien vessel's vital sections, targeting what appeared to be its brain center. "This is for every human you murdered," he said as he pressed the firing button. The quantum torpedoes punched through the Queen ship's organic armor and detonated inside its body. The massive creature convulsed and screamed, a sound that echoed across all frequencies. Its death cry caused the remaining Vrikari ships to scatter in panic, their coordination completely broken. On the planet's surface, the liberation was nearly complete. Human soldiers had secured all the major alien installations and were evacuating the surviving colonists to waiting transport ships. Medical teams worked frantically to treat the injured and malnourished prisoners. Rick Torres emerged from the mining tunnels with his group of survivors, just as the last alien resistance was being eliminated. He looked up at the sky, where human ships now controlled the space around their world. The space battle had lasted 6 hours, but the cleanup would take much longer. Admiral Grace Palmer stood in the observation deck of her flagship, watching human salvage crews investigate the wreckage of alien bioships. The largest pieces were still twitching, their organic systems shutting down slowly like dying animals. "Final casualty report, Admiral," her aide announced. 17 human ships damaged, 3 destroyed. We lost 47 crew members and 31 Marines. On the planet, we recovered 2,412 colonists alive. Grace nodded grimly. The numbers could have been much worse, but every human life lost was a tragedy. She had sent letters of condolence to the families of the fallen, knowing her words could never truly comfort their grief. The price of freedom was always paid in blood. Captain Alex Hunter supervised the boarding of the disabled Queen Mother ship. Human soldiers in sealed armor explored the massive vessel's interior, documenting alien technology and searching for survivors. The ship's brain center had been destroyed by the quantum torpedoes, but much of the structure remained intact. "It's incredible," reported the science officer leading the exploration team. "The entire ship is one giant organism. The walls have circulatory systems. The floors can sense pressure and movement. It's like being inside a living creature." Jake Morrison had been evacuated to the medical ship UES Mercy, where Dr. Carl Evans and his team examined the rescued colonists. Most suffered from malnutrition and exhaustion, but they were alive and recovering. Jake's engineering skills had kept him in better condition than many others, but he still needed weeks of rest and proper food. "How do you feel?" Dr. Evans asked as he checked Jake's vital signs. "Like I've been living in hell for 3 months," Jake replied honestly. "But I'll survive. We all will." Lisa Grant was being treated for stress and minor injuries in the same medical facility. Her work in the alien monitoring station had given her valuable intelligence about Vakari communications and technology. Fleet intelligence officers were already interviewing her about what she had learned. "Their ships use biological computers," she explained to the debriefing team. "They don't have artificial intelligence like us. Instead, they grow living brains and connect them to their systems. That's why our electronic warfare didn't work against them." Ben Clark had been reunited with his administrative staff and was helping coordinate the evacuation efforts. Despite months of captivity, he immediately took charge of organizing the colonists and making sure everyone received proper care. His leadership during the crisis had saved many lives. "What's the status on the colony infrastructure?" he asked the engineering assessment team. "Most of it can be repaired," replied the chief engineer. "The aliens damaged our life support systems, but they didn't completely destroy them. We can have basic services running again within a few weeks." Dr. Kate Williams was recovering more slowly than the others. Her forced cooperation with alien experiments had left her with deep psychological trauma. The fleet's counselors were working with her to process what she had experienced. "I had to help them hurt our own people," she told Dr. Evans during one of their sessions. "They made me use my medical knowledge to keep their test subjects alive longer. I feel like I betrayed everyone." "You survived," Dr. Evans replied gently. "And your survival meant you could help us understand what we were facing. Don't blame yourself for doing what you had to do." Rick Torres and his tunnel survivors had become heroes among the colonists. Their hidden resistance had provided crucial intelligence to the rescue force and helped coordinate the prisoner uprising. Rick was offered a position in Earth Defense Force, but he chose to stay on Kepler 442b to help rebuild. "This is my home," he told Admiral Palmer when she made the offer. "These people trusted me to protect them, and I'm not leaving again." The investigation of alien technology revealed disturbing information about the Vakari threat. Intelligence analysts studying captured communications discovered that this attack force was just a small part of a much larger swarm. The main Vakari fleet contained millions of ships, and had already consumed dozens of other civilizations. "They're nomadic predators," explained Fleet Intelligence Director Paul Martinez during the post-battle briefing. "They've been moving through the galaxy for thousands of years, consuming everything in their path. This was just their advanced scout force testing our defenses." Admiral Palmer felt a chill as she absorbed this information. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Vakari would be back, and next time they would be prepared for human tactics and technology. "How long before the main swarm reaches human space?" she asked. "Best estimate is 5 to 10 years, Martinez replied. "But they know about us now. They'll be studying our weaknesses and preparing countermeasures." The rescue fleet began preparing for the journey back to Earth. The surviving colonists were given a choice: return to Earth or stay and rebuild their colony. About half chose to leave, taking their families to safety in the inner systems. The other half, led by Ben Clark and Rick Torres, decided to stay and rebuild. "Kepler 442b is our home," Ben announced at the colony meeting. "We're not going to let alien monsters drive us away from what we've built here. But we're going to be ready for them if they come back." The decision to rebuild was supported by Earth Defense Force, which promised to establish a permanent military base in the system. New colonists would be recruited, and the settlement would be expanded with better defenses and early warning systems. Captain Sam Rogers volunteered to command the new base, bringing his Dreadnought UES Liberty to serve as the system's primary defense. His crew would train local militia and help establish orbital defense platforms around the planet. "We're not just rebuilding a colony," he told the assembled volunteers. "We're creating a fortress that will stand against any alien threat." The Vakari learned that humans don't give up easily. Next time they'll learn that we don't forget either. The technology recovered from alien ships provided humanity with new insights into biological engineering and organic computing systems. Human scientists began developing countermeasures against Vakari bioships and studying ways to adapt alien technology for human use. Dr. Williams, despite her trauma, contributed valuable research about Vakari biology and psychology. Her forced observations during captivity had revealed weaknesses in their social structure and decision-making processes that could be exploited in future conflicts. "They're actually quite vulnerable to psychological warfare," she reported to the Science Council. "Their hive mind structure makes them dependent on their queen mothers for coordination. Disrupt the command hierarchy, and the entire swarm becomes confused and disorganized." As the fleet prepared to depart, ceremonies were held to honor the fallen and celebrate the rescued. Medals were awarded to soldiers and civilians who had shown exceptional courage during the crisis. The colonists who had survived months of alien captivity were recognized as heroes who had endured unimaginable hardships. Jake Morrison was offered positions at several Earth corporations, but he chose to return to Kepler 442b as the colony's chief engineer. His experience with alien technology made him invaluable for the rebuilding effort and future defense preparations. "I'm not running away from this place," he told the recruitment officers. "The aliens tried to break us, but we survived. Now we're going to make this world stronger than ever." Lisa Grant also chose to stay, taking charge of the new early warning communication network that would alert Earth if the Vakari returned. Her experience with alien monitoring systems made her the perfect person to watch for signs of future threats. The departure of the main fleet was an emotional moment for everyone involved. Families were reunited after months of separation and uncertainty. Stories of survival and resistance were shared, creating legends that would inspire future generations. Admiral Palmer gave a final address to the assembled colonists and crew before the ships departed for Earth. Her words were carried across the galaxy by the communication networks, reaching every human settlement among the stars. "Today we proved that humanity will never abandon its own," she declared. "No matter how far we travel, no matter what dangers we face, we will always come for our people." The Vakari thought they could prey on us like they have on countless other species. They were wrong. The message resonated throughout human space. Colonies that had felt isolated and vulnerable now knew that Earth's protection extended to the farthest reaches of human exploration. The rescue of Kepler 442b became a symbol of human determination and unity. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace and began the long journey home, the colonists who remained behind started the work of rebuilding. They cleared away alien structures and repaired damaged buildings. New defenses were planned, incorporating lessons learned from the recent attack. But most importantly, they sent their own message across the galaxy. The transmission was simple but powerful, broadcast on frequencies that the Vakari and other alien species would receive. "This is Kepler 442b colony to anyone listening. We are human. We do not surrender. We do not flee, and we will never stop fighting for our freedom and our families. If you come in peace, you are welcome. If you come as enemies, you will learn why Earth's dreadnoughts fill the skies."